So my talk is titled What Malware Authors Don't Want You to Know, Evasive Hollow Process Injection. So in this presentation, I'll talk about some of the techniques used by the malware authors in the wild to confuse, bypass, divert, and deflect your forensic analysis. But before that, let me introduce myself. My name is Monappa. I work with Cisco's incident response team, and I also run a community called SysInfo, where we contribute articles, tools to the community. So in case you are interested, you can visit sysinfo.com, as in CYSINFO.com. And I'm also author of a Linux sandbox called Limon. And I'm also the winner of Volatility plugin contest. That plugin will be covered as part of this presentation. And also, I've presented at various conferences like Black Hat First and 4.6, and also actually, I don't see. Okay, so I've presented at various conferences like Black Hat First and 4.6, and also conducted trainings in these conferences, and I've also published articles in various magazines. So that's about me. So let's get started with hollow process injection and the evasive hollow process injection. But before that, I would like to introduce you to the concept of process memory internals, because this helps in understanding the hollow process injection better. And then we'll move on to the actual topic of hollow process injection, and then I'll talk about the evasive hollow process injection. So I won't be able to cover all the process memory internal concepts. I'll be covering the concept that is relevant to this talk. So let's say there is a process which starts. What happens when a process starts is a process memory is allocated. So this is the one that is representing the process memory. There are a lot of things that reside in the process memory. I've not shown that in the screen in this screenshot. So what happens when a process starts is the process executable is loaded into the memory. As you can see here, in this case, the svc host.exe is loaded at this address. And when a process is normally loaded, it has a memory protection of write copy, that is represented as write copy protect, that is WCX. Okay, and then apart from the executable that is loaded, the DLLs associated with the executable are also loaded into the memory. So the DLLs also reside in the process memory. And also another important structure that resides in the process memory is called PEB, which is process environment block. Now this PEB contains metadata related to the modules. It contains metadata related to the executable. In this, you see here, it is telling that svc host.exe is loaded at this base address, and this is the full path to the executable on the disk. Apart from that, the PEB structure also contains 3 double linked lists. Now these 3 double linked lists contain information about all the loaded modules. When I say modules, I mean executable and the DLLs. So these 3 double linked lists keeps track of the loaded modules. The first one keeps track of the loaded modules in the order in which they are loaded. That's why it's called load order module list. So if svc host.exe is loaded first, this data structure would contain information related to the svc host.exe. And then you can walk this double linked list to get the information related to the next module, and so on. And also the PEB keeps track of the loaded modules in the order in which they reside in the memory. So because they loaded svc host.exe loaded first doesn't mean it will reside in the memory first. So this double linked list keeps track of the loaded modules in the order in which they reside in the memory. As you can see here, it is keeping the same data but in a different order. And there's a third double linked list called as init order module list, which keeps track of the loaded modules in the order in which they are initialized. Because there's nothing called as initialization for executable, so the executable is not in the list. Whereas all other modules will be present in all the 3 double linked lists, except the executable will not be present in the init order module list. So this is the user process memory. So why am I saying that will be clear in some time. Let me tell you quickly. So let's say a tool wants to list the modules running on a system. It wants to enumerate the modules running on a system. What it can do is it can walk this double linked list, get the information related to the first module, and then it can walk to the next data structure, get the information related to the module, and then display the results. So this is about the user process memory. Now because these structures reside in the user process memory, it is possible that a malware process can unlink a DLL, which is a malicious DLL, and hide from the tools that list the modules. Okay, but there is a structure in the kernel called WAD tree structure. VAD stands for virtual address descriptor. It's a binary tree. Each node represents a contiguous memory allocation. For example, here, this node is representing this section of memory. It is telling that svc host.exe is loaded at this base address, and the memory protection is page execute write copy, which is same as WCX. Okay. And then if there is a DLL that is loaded, that will also be represented by a node. It will tell you where the DLL is loaded, what is the full path to the DLL, and what's the memory protection. So here, the screenshot is showing a module from a tool called Volatility. Volatility is the advanced memory forensic framework. You can take a memory image and run plugins on that. In this case, I'm showing you how the tool enumerates the list of loaded modules. You see, I'm running a DLL list plugin on a memory image. It is displaying all the modules associated with the process ID 884. It is showing that this is the details of svc host.exe. How is it getting that information? It is getting that information from here, the three module list, the load order module list that I talked about. First, it walks this list, reads this structure, gets the information like the base address, the size, where it is loaded, and that is the first row that you're seeing here. And then it walks the next data structure, gets the information, displays it. So that's one thing. And I also told you it is possible that the attacker can unlink a module and hide from the tools that list the modules, which means if a module is unlinked, DLL list will not be able to display it. So there is another plugin in Volatility called LDR modules. It uses a different approach. It compares the data from all the three double link list here, and then also compares that with the data from the PEB. VAD tree structure, and then displays the result. For example, here, you see that it is telling svc host.exe is present in the in-load order module list. That is this. And you see it's also present in the in-memory order module list, which is this. But it is not present in the in-init order module list, which is expected because this is an executable. Whereas you see all the DLLs, it says true, meaning they are all present in all the three double link lists. This is a normal case. It's not unlinked. So this is how the tools can enumerate the loaded modules. So that's about the basics of process memory internals that is required to understand this presentation. So now I'll focus my for now let's focus on hollow process injection. This is not a evasive hollow process injection that I'm going to talk about. This is a traditional hollow process injection. So let's see how it works, and then we'll see how to detect it, and then we'll talk about the evasive hollow process injection. So before getting into hollow process injection is a code injection technique. So which means you need to understand what code injection is. So code injection is a technique in which a malware injects code into a legitimate process, and it forces the legitimate process to execute malicious code. So why attackers do that? One, it's only in the memory. It can reside only in the memory. So which means it can bypass your hard disk forensics. Second, it can also, because the code is injected into the legitimate process, and the legitimate process is forced to execute malicious code, it can even bypass the whitelisting softwares. So then what is hollow process injection? Hollow process injection, like I said, it's a code injection technique in which I mentioned that when a process is executed, the executable is loaded into the memory, right? So in this technique, the executable section of a legitimate process is replaced with a malicious executable, and then the executable is forced to execute that malicious code. So how does it work? So normally, there is a malware process which creates a legitimate process in the suspended mode. As a result of that, the legitimate process executable is loaded into the memory. That process executable section is hollowed out. We call it deallocating the memory. We call it hollow out. And then the new memory is allocated, and the malicious executable is injected into that region. And then, because if you remember, I told you it starts a process in the suspended mode. The thread is suspended. It points the start address of the thread to the injected address of entry point of the injected executable, and then resumes the thread. As a result of that, the legitimate process starts executing the malicious code. And here, there is nothing residing on the disk. The malware that performed the hollow process injection can terminate and delete itself. The only code that is the malicious code that is present is in the memory of the legitimate process. So that way, it can bypass the live forensic tools and the whitelisting softwares. So let's try to understand how Stuxnet hollow process injection works. Again, it's a traditional technique. And so first, this is how Stuxnet hollow process injection works. There's a malware process that started a legitimate process in the suspended mode. In this case, it started lsas.exe in the suspended mode. As a result of that, lsas.exe was loaded in this memory region. And because it was normally loaded, it has a memory protection of write copy execute, WCX. And the PEB structure, like I said, it'll contain information about where lsas.exe is loaded. In this case, it is telling lsas.exe was loaded at this address, and this is the full path to lsas.exe. And also, there is a corresponding node that in the kernel, in the WAD tree structure, which represents this section of memory. Here it is telling that lsas.exe is loaded at this address, and the memory protection is write copy. So then what Stuxnet did was, it hollowed out this section of memory, that is where the lsas.exe was loaded. As a result of that, the node that was representing that section of memory is removed. And then a new memory was allocated into the same region, and an executable was injected. So after injection, it will look like this. So you see here, there is a discrepancy in the memory protection, WCX and RWX. The reason is because attackers cannot allocate a memory with a write copy protection. So their option is to allocate a memory with a read write execute. So this is one of the discrepancies that can be used to detect hollow process injection. And also notice how PEB, the PEB structure, is telling that svc host.exe is loaded at this address, which is the injected executable. And there is no WAD node. The WAD node does not represent the path of the executable, because in this case, it hollowed it out. So how to detect such attack? Like I said, there is a discrepancy between the PEB and the WAD we can look at the discrepancy between the WAD and the PEB to detect this type of attack. And also we can look for the memory protection with a read write execute, because if an executable is normally loaded, it should have a protection of write copy. Okay, so let me show you how to detect this using memory forensics. This is a memory image infected with Stuxnet. So the first method of detecting is to look for the parent-child relationship. I told you the malware process starts a legitimate process in the suspended mode. You see, I'm listing the process and looking for lsas.exe process. You see that there are multiple instances of lsas.exe running on a system. But the first lsas.exe has a parent process of 624, which is associated with winlogon.exe, which is normal. On a clean system, lsas.exe is started by winlogon.exe. But these two processes, it is started by a different process, which has a process ID of 668, which is associated with services.exe, which is not normal. On a clean system, like I said, lsas is started by winlogon.exe, not services.exe. So this is one discrepancy that you can use to detect hollow process injection. That's one. Second, you can compare the discrepancy between the PEB and the WAD. Like I said, the DLL list relies on the one of the double linked list. It says lsas.exe is loaded at this address. Whereas when you run LDR modules, which also compares these three double linked lists with the kernel data structure, there is a WAD structure, it is telling that at this base address, there is no path to the executable. Here you see the path, here there's no path. So this is the discrepancy that it creates, and this can be used to detect a hollow process injection. Another thing, there is a plugin called Malfind. What Malfind does is, it looks for the suspicious memory regions. If it finds any suspicious memory regions, it'll report back. So in this case, what it's saying is, it's telling that this memory address is suspicious because there is an executable, but the memory protection is page execute read write. If an executable was normally loaded, it should have a memory protection of page execute write copy. In this case, it has a memory protection of page execute read write. It tells you that it was not normally loaded, it was injected. So this is how you can detect these are some of the things that you can look for when you detect traditional hollow process injection. And let's take an example of a second malware called Skia, and let me show you how it does hollow process injection. Again, I'm still in the traditional hollow process injection. In this case, Skia created a legitimate process in the suspended mode. In this case, it created svc host.exe. As a result of that, svc host.exe was loaded at this address. The PEB was pointing here. It represents the full path. There is a WAD structure that is pointing here. Then what Skia did was, it did slightly different from Stuxnet. It deallocated this section of memory where the suspended executable was. It deallocated it. Instead of allocating a memory in the same region, it allocated a memory in a different region. As you can see here, it deallocated this section of memory. It allocated a new memory. Because it cannot give a permission of write copy, it gave a permission of read, write, execute. And it modified the PEB structure. Initially, PEB was pointing to the actual svc host.exe. It modified the PEB to point to the injected executable. As a result of this, you see the discrepancy. The PEB is, the PEB is, according to the PEB, svc host.exe is loaded at this address, but VAD, according to the VAD, there is no entry because it was removed. So this is one of the discrepancy. Again, this creates a different kind of discrepancy. So let me show you that with the help of memory forensics. So this is the memory image infected with SCIA. As I said, one method of detecting is list the process. In this case, you see there are multiple instances of services, svc host.exe running on a system. But all the svc host.exe have a parent process of 696, which is services.exe, which is normal. On a clean system, svc host.exe is started by services.exe, which is normal. But this process here was started by some process 1768, which is no longer in the memory, probably because it injected and terminated itself. But that tells you that this process, this svc host.exe is suspicious because it was not started by services.exe. That's one thing. Second, comparing the PEB and the VAD structure, running the DLList plugin, which relies on the PEB, you see that it tells that svc host.exe is loaded at this 4 followed by 5 zeros base address, whereas there is no entry for svc host.exe in the LDR modules plugin. So this is the discrepancy. This created a different discrepancy. In case of Stuxnet, the path was not present. In this case, there is no entry for svc host.exe at all. That's one thing. Second, you can also use malfind plugin. Like I said, if an executable is injected, it will not have a memory protection of page execute write copy. In this case, it is telling that where PEB said where svc host.exe is loaded, that region here, it is telling it's suspicious because it contains an executable. This is a signature of a PE executable, but it does not contain the right memory protection. So these are some of the characteristics that can be used to detect hollow process injection. Now, what I did was I wrote a plugin which would automate this process instead of running 3 different plugins like DLList, LDR modules, malfind. What this plugin does is it looks for the discrepancy between the PEB and the VAD, and it will directly report if a process is victim of hollow process injection. So this is the plugin that won the World Teltic contest. I'll tell you, it's not just to detect the traditional hollow process injection. When I talk about the evasive hollow process injection, it detects that as well. So this is the HoloFind running. So you see that this is a screenshot of running HoloFind plugin against Stuxnet, the first case. You see that it tells you that lsas.exe is bad. And it also in one screen, it shows you the discrepancy between the VAD and the PEB. You see there is no path in the VAD, whereas there is a path in the PEB. If you remember, this is what we saw when we ran the DLList and the LDR modules. And also it tells you that there is a memory protection is not right. It's page execute read write. Apart from that, it also displays the parent-child relationship. Here, looking at this, you can tell that these two lsas.exe is bad, the 868 and 1928, because it was started by services.exe. It is supposed to be started by winlogon.exe. So that can give an idea of which is the malicious process. Apart from that, the plugin also displays the suspicious memory regions. In this case, it is telling that there is an executable PE found, but the memory protection is not right. So this can help you determine, without having to run multiple plugins, you can just run the plugin and it will tell you these discrepancies. And running the same plugin against the SCIA, you see that it says this svc host.exe is the victim of hollow process injection, and it shows a discrepancy between the VAD and the PEB. You see that there is no entry in the VAD, whereas there is a corresponding entry in the PEB. It is telling here, you see it says svc host.exe is loaded at this address, but the memory protection is not right. And also it displays the parent-child relationship, which allows you to, which will tell you which is the malicious process. Here you see all the svc host.exe started by services.exe, and this one is not started by services.exe. And also, like I said, it displays the suspicious memory regions. It is showing that this region, there is an executable PE, but the memory protection is not right. So that way you can automate the detection of hollow process injection. So now we have talked about the traditional hollow process injection. So while analyzing various samples, I came across a few samples which did hollow process injection differently. So this slight variation to the hollow process injection caused diversion in the forensic tools. It confused the forensic tools. So let me show you. The first example is Tidor. Let's see how Tidor does hollow process injection and how its hollow process injection can confuse some of the forensic tools. So what Tidor did was, first it created a legitimate process, svchost.exe in the suspended mode. As a result of that, svchost.exe here was loaded at this address, that is 1 followed by 6 zeros. That's a normal step. And also notice the memory protection is a write copy because it was normally loaded. Then what Tidor did was, if you remember Stuxnet and Skia, it hollowed out the executable section. In this case, Tidor kept the executable section as it is. That is the section where the suspended svchost.exe was loaded. And then it allocated a new memory in a different region. It did not hollow out that section. It allocated a new memory region at this address, that is 4 followed by 5 zeros. And then it injected the executable in this region. And then it modified the PEB to point to that address. So now PEB thinks that svchost.exe is loaded at that place where it injected the executable. Now, and then it modified the start address of the suspended thread to the address of entry point of the injected executable, and it resumed the thread. As a result of that, the svchost.exe starts executing malicious code. So to show you what happened, this diagram should help you understand what exactly happened. So malware process created svchost.exe in the suspended mode. It normally loaded, because of which it has a write copy protection. The PEB is initially pointing here. The path is this. The VAD is there's a VAD node that is representing this section of memory. And then I told you that it did not hollow out this section of memory, which means at this address, there is still a suspended executable. At this region, there is a suspended executable still there with a write copy protection. But instead of hollowing out, it allocated a new memory and injected code, and the PEB was modified to point here, which means that according to the PEB, svchost.exe is at this address, 4 followed by 5 zeros. But according to the VAD, the same executable is loaded at this address. So there is a discrepancy. And let's see what kind of confusion this can create in the forensic tools. Let me show you a demo. Let me do so with the help of video demo, let me show you the memory analysis of the memory image infected with Tidor. Okay, so you see that this is the memory image infected with Tidor. First, I start with the process listing, and I grep for svchost.exe process. You see that, as you might have expected, all this svchost.exe is right, because all of them were started by 572, which is associated with services.exe, whereas this process is started by some other process. 2020 process was started by some other process, which is no longer present because it did the injection and it terminated itself. So now you know that this is the suspicious process. That's one thing. Second, running the DLL list plugin on that suspicious process, you see that it tells you that svchost.exe is loaded at this address, 4 followed by, because the PEB was modified to point, and because DLL list plugin relies on PEB, it is telling that svchost.exe is loaded at this address. What about the LDR modules? Running the same thing against running the LDR modules against the process. You see that the LDR modules tells that the svchost.exe is loaded at the different base address. It is not possible that the same process has different base address, right? That is one discrepancy. But if you paid attention to what I said, right? The LDR modules compare the 3 double linked list and the VAD. You see that it also gives you a feeling that this executable is unloaded, meaning it is unlinked from the in-load order module list. It is also telling that it's unlinked from the in-memory order module list, which it's not. Basically, this is giving a false positive. Now, if you're an analyst and if you are asked to rely on the plugin, what would you rely on? You'll rely on the LDR modules because it correlates the PEB and the kernel data structure. You know that this is more reliable. Now, you think that this is the executable that is bad, and it is because it is unlinked, and probably you will focus your analysis or forensics here. You will dump this executable and analyze it, and or run it through AV scanner, and probably you'll miss the actual component which is loaded at 4 followed by 5 zeros. So let's see what happens if I dump this, and let me show you what happens. So what I'll do is, now remember there are two base address. One is this, one is 4 followed by 5 zeros. This address contains if you remember the diagram, this address contains the suspended executable. So even if you dump it, you're dumping the suspended executable, the legitimate executable. Okay. So, but it was able to confuse the tool to think that this is unlinked from the double linked list. So which affects forensics. Now let's say I dump this executable from the memory. I'm using the plugin called DLL dump. I dumped it from the memory. Let me show you just for the sake of demo. I submit this to VirusTotal and let's see what comes up. You see that 1 out of 56 AV vendors are calling it as bad. It's not really bad. It's probably because the heuristics, because the suspended mode, it's not completely loaded, so it's just in the suspended mode. That's why one of them is detecting, but it's not really malicious. Okay. Also to show you, if I dump that executable and extract the strings from the dumped module, you see there are very less strings because it's in the suspended state. That's one thing. So how do we detect it? So malfind can help you detect that. When you run a malfind against that, it will tell you that this address is bad, not the one with the 1000. This is 4 because the 100 still has the write copy protection. But this memory region is suspicious because it has a page execute read write protection. Now we can focus your analysis here. In case you didn't know how it worked and if you miss this component, you'll be misled to investigate the actual the suspended executable, and you'll be focusing your analysis on a component that is not malicious. So let me dump this section of memory and show you that this is the component that is malicious. So you see that I dump this section of memory, the 4 followed by 5 zeros, and then I submit to VirusTotal now. You see that it tells you that it is malicious. So that's how you can detect this type of hollow process injection. But, okay, and also when I extract the strings from the dumped executable, you see now you have a lot of other strings. You have reference to the command and control server IP addresses and the pattern of the TIDOR. So that's how you can detect hollow process injection. But this process was also automated. What I showed you is a manual technique. It was also automated using HoloFind plugin. Let me show you how it looks like. So you see that running the HoloFind plugin against this memory image, it tells you svchost.exe is bad, and it will tell you in one screen, it will show you there is a base address discrepancy. You see svchost.exe is here. According to the PEB, it is here. So this tells you there is a base address discrepancy. And also you can spot which is the malicious executable by looking at the memory protection. Here it is page execute write copy because it was in the suspended state. It is there, it is legitimate. And this one was injected. It has a page execute read write, which is malicious. And also it tells you the parent-child relationship, which will help you determine which is the malicious process. And also it's telling the same thing again. There's an executable, there's a page execute read write, which is malicious. This is how you can automate this instance of hollow process injection. So this was still okay. Now what I'm going to show next is a malware sample called Kulos. Kulos does hollow process injection differently, and let's see how it can confuse, divert, and deflect your analysis. So how does Kulos do memory hollow process injection? First, let me go to that visual, the diagram which gives you a visual representation, and then come back to the actual code. So what Kulos did was, it started svchost.exe in the suspended mode. As a result of that, it loaded into this region. The PEB is pointing to that, VAD is pointing to that. VAD is pointing this section of memory, which is normal. Then what Kulos did was, first, this is the malware process. It allocates a code that it wants to, not the executable, the code that it wants to inject into its own memory region. And then it calls an API called nt-mapview of section, which allows you to map this section of memory into a remote process, that is svchost.exe process. It maps that section into the remote process and injects this code, the one in the red. With a read write execute permission, the code is injected into this memory region, that is 6 followed by 4 zeros. That is first step that the Kulos did. Then second, it copied the actual content of svchost.exe, the content of svchost.exe into its own memory region. It patched few bytes of svchost.exe, Then it deallocated this section of memory, svc host.exe. Then it used again the ntmapu of section to map the patched executable back into the memory region of the executable. So it would look like this. And then when the thread is resumed, what will happen? svc host.exe will execute this code, which is a patched svc host.exe, which will redirect control to the actual code injected, which does the malicious actions. So here, the code that performs malicious action is this code. So this was just a redirection, okay? So let me show with the help of code how exactly it works. First, Kulos created svc host.exe process in the suspended mode. As a result of that, it loaded into this address, which I mentioned here. And then it, like I said, it copies a code that it wants to inject into its own memory space. It calls ntmapu of section and copies that code into this region. That is 6 followed by 4 zeros. As a result of that, it will look like this. You see that a memory was allocated into the svc host.exe process, 6 followed by 4 zeros. Now notice the memory protection is read, write, execute still. And this is the code that was injected into that memory region. Then what it did was it used the nt-unmapu of section to unmap this section of memory where svc host.exe was loaded. Before that, it copied it into its own memory region, patched it, and then uses nt-mapu to copy it back into the same region where it was loaded previously. So you see here, now after that, you see at that address where svc host.exe is loaded, it copied the executable, the patched executable. Now what is that patched executable? You compare the legitimate executable content with the patched executable, you will see that there are only 3 instructions that are modified. The rest all are legitimate code. Those 3 instructions, what they're doing is, it is doing a no-op, push into the stack, and ret will start execution from this address. That is 6 followed by 4 zeros. If you remember, 6 followed by 4 zeros is where the code was injected. So by patching this and resuming a thread, the thread will start executing the svc host.exe, which will redirect the control to the injected code. And notice here only 3 instructions are patched. The rest all are svc host.exe code, legitimate code. This is the screenshot just to give you an idea what's happening here. Now, what kind of discrepancy this creates? Let me show you a demo so that you get an idea. So let's do a memory forensics on a sample that's infected with Kulos. First, I start with process listing. You see that there are multiple instances of svc host.exe. This is the one that is bad. As you can see, this has a parent of 3040, which is not associated with. You see, all others have 496, which is services.exe, but this one is not. So it's associated with the malware, sample process order.exe, which is the malware sample. And then that's one thing. Second, running the DLL list shows that svc host.exe is loaded at this address. In this case, it was loaded at this address, A followed by 5 zeros. And then running the LDR modules, let's see what happens. You see, LDR modules tell that A followed by 5 zeros, there is no path. Remember, here, you see that A followed by 50, it's telling that there's no path. Remember, this was the scenario of Stuxnet. Now, if you think that you found a traditional hollow process injection, the Stuxnet kind of hollow process injection, what you'll probably do is run malfind and then dump this executable and analyze it. Let's see what happens. So let's run malfind and see what happens. Malfind also tells you that this region is suspicious because it has page execute read write, because it hollowed out. But the malfind does not tell you the relationship between this and the redirected code at 6 followed by 4 zeros. But malfind will still be able to, malfind will still identify that memory region. Like I said, it looks for suspicious memory region. Here it is looking for page execute read write. Both of them have page execute read write. It is telling that these are all suspicious memory regions. But malfind did not tell you that there is a redirection. So if you if you knew traditional hollow process injection, what you would do is you will probably miss the component where the redirection is happening, or you will not know there is how it's related unless you know how this hollow process injection works. So what you'll do is, let's say you'll dump this sample thinking that this is malicious, and that's what I'll do. I'm going to dump that sample. I dump the address, this A followed by 4 zeros where patched executable is, patched svchos.executable is. I dump it, I submit to VirusTotal. Let's see what happens. Even VirusTotal tells you that it is malicious. The reason is because it's doing a heuristics. Because it is patched, it is telling you that it's malicious. It's patched. It is different from the actual executable. But it does not tell you there is a redirection, right? So everything here is telling that that is the malicious. Probably you will stop your analysis here thinking that you found the malicious component, or you dump it from the memory, you will patch the imports and probably run it in a sandbox. You will get nothing because this code is going to redirect to that address 640. On the sandbox, there's no injected code in that region. So you'll be missing the actual component. So this is how the Kulos, so it made everything look like a Stuxnet hollow process injection, but it's not really Stuxnet, it's something else. So unless you know that there is a code and that address, say that 6 followed by 40, you will not be able to spot the actual malicious code. So let me dump that address and let me show you that is the malicious code. That 6 followed, I've dumped that address, 6 followed by 4 zeros. Let me submit to VirusTotal and let me show you. See, this is the component of Kulos. It's telling that it's component of Kulos. So in case if you missed that, and if you relied just on the AV detection, you would probably miss this component. And also, the existing forensic plugins are not designed to tell you the relationship, this redirection relationship. Okay, so then, so I also, HoloFind plugin, the plugin that I wrote, addresses this problem as well. Let me show you how it addresses that problem. First, it tells you it tells you that which is the hollowed process. It shows the discrepancy between the VAD and the PEB. You see that there's a path discrepancy here, which is similar to Stuxnet, and the memory protection is not right. That's correct. But another thing that the HoloFind does that's different from the Malfind is it disassembles the address of entry point. And at this point, you can tell that looking at the code here, there is a redirection to this address. Now you can focus your analysis on that address, which tells you that there is a redirection, which means there is a code that is injected here, which is malicious. So now also looking at the suspicious memory region, the HoloFind plugin also tells you that there is a suspicious memory region, and also there is an executable that was loaded which has page execute read write. So that way it will tell you the relationship so that you can focus on both the components, not just one component. As you can see how just by creating a slight variation to the hollow process injection, the attackers were able to divert your forensic analysis. It can create confusion in the minds of the security analyst. It can bypass forensic tools. But remember, the Malfind was able to detect that injected code, that 6 followed by 4 zeros. So one of the things that I wanted to check is, if I can hide this from the memory forensic tools, I can give the security analyst the feeling that you found the Stuxnet kind of component, which means this injected code will be unnoticed, and we can completely bypass the memory forensics. To do that, one of the things that I did, I wanted to try was to, instead of, I modified the Kulos code to start explorer.exe in the suspended mode instead of svchost.exe. Another thing that I wanted to do was, where it injects the code, I wanted to change the memory protection from read write execute, because that's what it was looking for, Malfind was looking for, to a protection of page execute write copy. But the problem was, like I said, Microsoft documentation says that you cannot allocate a memory with a page execute write copy protection, which has a constant value of 80. It says the flag is not supported. But remember how Kulos did hollow process injection? It used the NT-MAP of section. It turns out that when you call NT-MAP of section, one of the parameter will tell what memory region, or what is the permission to allocate. By changing the permission, you can allocate a write copy protection. So let me show you how I did that. So first I modified the code to create explore.exe in the suspended mode, and then I allowed the Kulos to inject the code. Remember, NTMap, you have said first it injects the code. I allowed it to inject the code, but I modified the parameter from 40 to 80. 40 is page execute read write, 80 is page execute write copy. I modified that. As you can see in here, the memory region was allocated with a write copy protection, and the code was injected. So now we have successfully created a memory protection with a write copy, not the page execute read write. And then what I did was I allowed the malware to patch the explorer.exe, copy it back. You see, this is what happens. This is similar to Kulos, except that the memory protection here was changed to write copy protection. So if a malware authors do this, will it bypass memory forensics? Let's see. So let's take let me show you the demo of a malware sample that is that is memory image that is infected with the modified Kulos code. So first, let's start with process listing. You see there are two instances of explorer.exe running because I modified it to the reason why I changed it to explorer.exe is because from the parent-child relationship, it's little hard to tell because explorer.exe on a clean system is started by user init.exe, which starts and immediately terminates, which itself will not reside in the process listing. So which means even if because it terminates, and even if a malware code is injected code, even if that terminates, it's hard to tell from the parent-child relationship. Both the parent process is not in the process listing. So that's one thing, but that's not a big deal. But what's important is, let me show you this. The DLL list shows that explorer.exe is loaded at this address, 57 followed by 4 zeros. And then the LDR modules will tell that at that address there is no path, again giving you a feeling of Stuxnet kind of hollow process injection. Now what if I run malfind? Malfind tells you that the region where explorer.exe is loaded is bad because it has a memory protection of page execute read write. But notice this time, I'm just playing the video, it did not detect that region where the code was injected, the 6 followed by 4 zeros. So we have bypassed the memory forensics plugin here, and also we have now everything looks like Stuxnet kind of hollow process injection. Now what you will do is, because at this point you don't know there is a code that is injected at that address. So only thing that you know is there is an executable which looks suspicious. So what you'll do, you'll dump the executable, that is 57 followed by 4 zeros. Again, you'll probably fix the import, run it in a sandbox. You'll get nothing. Probably you'll reverse engineering. If you reverse engineering, you'll probably notice those 3 instructions. Otherwise, if you're dynamically analyzing this, you'll not find any malicious behavior because you dump the executable which is patched. Only 3 instructions are patched. Those 3 instructions are just to redirect the control. It's not doing anything malicious. All the malicious actions is performed by the code that is injected. So now I submit that explorer.exe to VirusTotal. You see again, it's telling that AV is detecting, but it is because of heuristics. It says patched. That's why it is detecting. It detected the patched code. It did not tell you that there is a code. It does not tell you that. So which means you at this point you think that you found the malicious component and you will analyze it, but you will not determine any behavior. So probably you'll think that malware is not doing anything, right? So, or there's a bug in the malware. Okay, so, but let me show you how HoloFind addresses this problem. So the HoloFind was written to address this problem as well. So how does it do it? So I run HoloFind plugin on that Kulos modified image. It tells you that explorer.exe is bad. And also it tells you the parent process msorder.exe, which is not normal. And also it tells you that it gives you the discrepancy between the VAD and the PEB. You see there's no path here. Here there's a path and the memory protection is page execute read write. And another thing it tells you is, like I said, it gives you the address of entry point. Disassembles the address of entry points, which tells you that there is a redirection. That's one thing. Which means it tells you that you'll have to focus on this address as well. And then also here, it displays the memory region. Now, how did holofind detect this region as bad, whereas malfind did not detect it? So the logic is this. If an executable is normally loaded, it will have a page execute write copy protection. But if there is no executable, there is no need for it to have page execute write copy. That is the logic. So here, this memory region has a protection of write copy, but there is no executable. That's not normal. That's how it is detecting this memory region. That's the logic to it. And also, it detects that patched memory region where the explorer.exe was patched. You see here, because it has a page execute read write protection. So that's how holofind plugin can help you. It can pinpoint on the process that is hollowed out, and it can also disassemble the address of entry point and tell you there is a redirection. And also, it can tell you there is a suspicious memory region where you can, so that you can focus your analysis on that. Now, let me show you that I dumped this component where the code is injected, which we missed from the malfind plugin. So let me dump it, and let me submit to VirusTotal. Now you'll see that the AV vendors are detecting. Now it's not saying patched, it's saying it's the Kulos. So now you have the malicious component. So this way you can detect the hollow process injection. As you can see, how attackers were able to bypass your forensic analysis and how to confuse and divert your analysis. Then the last sample, after I modified this code, few days after that, I came across a sample called Kronos, which did exactly the same thing what I did by modifying the Kulos code, but it did slightly differently. So let me show you this. So the Kulos started explore.exe in the suspended mode. As a result of that, it loaded here. The PEB was pointing here, the VAD was pointing here. Then it did the exact same thing. You remember, it allocated a memory into its own region. It copied the code that it wants to inject. It used ntmap of section to map that section. Instead of code here, it injected an executable directly. That's one thing. Let me, oops, I killed the zoom tab. Okay, so it first copied the executable and changed the memory protection to write copy. It used the ntmap of section. It gave the same method that we used. It mapped the memory and gave it a memory protection of write copy. Remember, if it's write copy, it will bypass the malfind plugin. So it was able to do that. And then it copied the content of explorer.exe into its own memory region, patched it, copied it back. You see, this is what happens. And when the thread is resumed, explorer.exe will execute this patched executable. The job of the patched executable is to redirect the code to the injected executable. Okay, so which performs malicious actions. So let me show you what happens when you do this, how it creates discrepancy. So as you might have expected, it will bypass the malfind plugin, but let me show you that and how to detect such attack. So this is a memory image infected with Kronos. The name is similar, Kronos, rhyming. Yeah. So run PS list. There are two instances of explorer.exe running. Again, probably the attacker created explorer.exe because it's hard to tell from the parent-child relationship. Let me show you that. Because you see here, both the parent is not present in the memory listing. Because when a clean system starts, user init starts explorer.exe and terminates itself, which is not in the listing. The same way, a malware can start explorer.exe, inject code, and terminate itself, which will also not be in the listing. But there are other signs that you can look for, like the creation time and so on, and still spot it. So let me tell you, this is the explorer.exe that is bad. And running the DLL list against that, it tells you that explorer.exe is loaded at this address. LDR modules tell you that at that address, you see here, there is no path to the explorer.exe. Again, giving you the Stuxnet feeling that you already saw. And if you run malfind plugin, let's see what happens. Run malfind. You see that it shows only one region. That is where the patched explorer.exe is. 82 followed by this thing. It's telling that it's bad because there's executable. It has read-write protection. But it misses that executable, which was loaded at 6 followed by, as you can see here, I'm just scrolling down just to show you, it misses that component. So which means now the tools are not telling you there are two components, or neither it is telling you there is a redirection. So what you'll do again, like I said, you probably think that you found the malicious component, dump it. You'll probably analyze it. Like I said, you will not be analyzing, you'll be analyzing the legitimate code, except in this case, it's only 2 instructions that's patched. Let me show you that. And as you can, and also the AV vendors are telling that it is bad. It's based on the heuristics. Here, if you don't go by this logic that it's bad, it's because it's patched. It's going by the heuristics. It's not that you found all the components. There are components that are still there. Okay. So now, how does HoloFind help in this case? HoloFind again was designed to address this scenario as well. How does that work? Let me show you that. I'm running HoloFind plugin, and you see that it detects the explorer.exe as bad. It shows the discrepancy between the VAD and the PEB, and the memory protection is not normal. That's one thing. Second, here it disassembled the address of entry point. You see that in this case, there are only 2 instructions that are bad, that is push and the ret. It's pushing this address and calling ret. So the execution will start from this address now, which is in the range of 6000. The reason why it didn't put 6000 is because, if you remember, it was an executable. The first few bytes are headers, right? So it is directly pointing to the address of entry point where the code starts. It's telling that start from here, start the code from here. So which means now you know that there is something that is bad at this region. So then, how does HoloFind detect? You see that HoloFind detected this region 6000. What is the logic now? You might say that it is an executable. It has write copy protection. Then what is the problem? The problem is the logic that the HoloFind uses is another logic is this. If it's an executable, it has write copy, it's normal, but another thing is it has to be loaded from the disk, right? Here it is checking if it's executable, if it is write copy, is it loaded from the disk? In this case, there is no mapped file. It is not loaded from the disk. That tells you that which was not normally loaded, it was injected. Okay? So that's the logic that it uses to detect the injected executable. Now you have detected both the components. Now you can focus your analysis on that address where that 6000, which is this address where the executable is injected. Now you can dump this executable, run it in a sandbox, reverse engineer it. You'll be able to identify the malicious actions performed by the malware. Now I'm submitting to VirusTotal. Now you see that it is telling some of the events, Kronos. So as you can see, that's how you can detect the different variations of hollow process injection, and you can also use HoloFind plugin, which is open source, and you can also find that in the Volatility plugin contest website because it won the contest, or you can find it on the GitHub link as well. So this is how the attackers, just by creating variations of hollow process injection, they did not have to install the driver. Like for example, without even installing a driver, it was able to confuse the tool, the LDR modules, the Tidor was able to confuse LDR modules to confuse and divert your analysis. And as you saw, the Kulos and Kronos almost diverted you from detecting the malicious component. So with that, I have come to the end of the session. Before I conclude, so the key takeaways are this. So the attackers are coming up with new techniques to bypass, confuse, divert, and deflect your analysis. So which means the tools that are written is written with a logic, with a certain logic. So it's possible that the tools might not know how the attacks work, or they might not know what is coming up in the future. So as the attackers come up with new techniques, tools can be bypassed. So understanding such techniques will help in detecting and countering such attacks. So these are some of the references. With that, I complete the session. And if you have any questions, do we have time for questions? Yeah, okay. So we have time for questions. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer your questions. Or if I don't know the answer for the questions, I'll probably let you know. And it's possible that sometime HoloFind can also be bypassed. You might see a scenario where malware uses different scenario which bypasses HoloFind. If you come across something like that, let me know. I would be happy to analyze the malware sample and write a logic for it. So if you, I would be happy to answer any questions if you have any.